Everyone stared at each other, not knowing what to do. The scene was incredibly strange. Old 7, see, it's like I was saying, perhaps nothing happened with Sis Feng and Lord Azura. They just drank tea and chatted and talked about life and dreams and whatnot. Big Dipper relaxed. 7-Star glanced at Big Dipper, appearing as though he wanted to say something but ended up biting his words. Everyone looked at Big Dipper like he was an idiot. Was this fool doing this purposefully, or was he truly naive? Discussing their life and dreams? Don't joke with us. What's there to discuss between a single man and a single woman who are alone together? And they had enough things to discuss a whole night? At that moment, Si Yihan's phone started ringing. He needed to take care of something, so Yi Wanwan also didn't linger and quickly led 7-Star, Big Dipper, and the others away from this place. Back at the Fearless Alliance headquarters, 7-Star and Big Dipper kept sending occasional glances at Yi Wanwan. Big Dipper's gaze looked especially odd. What are you looking at? Yi Wanwan glanced at Big Dipper. Sis Feng, is the goo poison really okay? Big Dipper quietly asked. How meddlesome. Besides, doesn't he see how lively and energetic I am right now? Sis Feng, you're so cool. I carefully thought about it, and you and Lord Azura absolutely didn't do something as simple as conversing and having a heart-to-heart chat. Moreover, what is there for Lord Azura to talk to you about? Big Dipper gave Yi Wanwan a thumbs up. Did they really think he was stupid? The goo poison got cured, so how could they have merely chatted? Everyone said President Fearless coveted the Lord Azura's beauty, but they didn't expect their president to really have her way in the end. What a pity for Lord Azura's illustrious reputation. It shattered completely because of this. President. Before Yi Wanwan could respond, Third Elder pushed the door open and entered. What is it? Yi Wanwan asked. Someone wants to see you. He says he's Little Stutterer, Third Elder explained. Little Stutterer? Yi Wanwan was startled, looking confused. What little stutterers? Where did this little stutterer come from? After a few seconds, Yi Wanwan slapped her forehead and remembered the hidden guard from China's Sea family whose nickname was Little Stutterer and whose real name was Feng Shuani. He later even became the captain of the Sea family's hidden guards. Not only that, but shortly before her trip to the independent state, she was also hunted by assassins sent by Worryless Nya, and it was Feng Shuani who suddenly appeared and saved her life. Of course, Yi Wanwan had no idea whether the little stutterer looking for her right now was Feng Shuani or not. President, do you need me to kick him out? Third Elder asked when Yi Wanwan didn't answer. No need. Yi Wanwan shook her head and turned to him. Third Elder, lead him in here. Okay. Third Elder nodded and promptly exited. Sis Feng, what little stutterer? Where did you meet him? Don't tell me, it's another resentful lover? Big Dipper anxiously shouted. Yi Wanwan glanced at him but was disinclined to respond. Big Dipper's gaze turned suggestive at Yi Wanwan's silence, and I knew it, was written all over his face. Soon, a knock resounded against the office door. After receiving permission from Yi Wanwan to enter, the man outside lit a cigarette and took a deep inhale before pushing open the doors. Damn, he has some decent looks with some flavor to him. After seeing the man, Big Dipper started to quietly comment and criticize. You've got to admit, Old 7, our Sis Feng is seriously something. Although she philanders everywhere she goes and attracts all kinds of bees and butterflies, the overall quality is rather decent. 7-Star remained silent and started dragging Big Dipper toward the door. Right. Let's go and leave Sis Feng some private space. It'd be inconvenient with us there. Big Dipper agreed. 7-Star, Miss. The man faced Yi Wanwan with a smile. Talk normally and fluidly. Yi Wanwan glared at him. Who else could this be but Feng Shuani? Miss Yi, have you forgotten? I'm a stutterer, Feng Shuani said. Someone, come in here and drag this stutterer outside to feed the dogs. Yi Wanwan shouted out the door. Feng Shuani's expression shifted instantly. This was the Fearless Alliance and Yi Wanwan was their president. A word from her and there might really be some foolish guy who'd come in and drag him out to feed the dogs. Don't. Miss Yi, let's talk nicely. Aren't you too cold-hearted? At least I saved your life back then, Feng Shuani cried fawningly. You aren't stuttering anymore? Yi Wanwan inspected him several times. It was a pity that this guy didn't become an actor. If he was an actor, it absolutely wouldn't be any problem for him to win Best Actor since he could pretend to be a stutterer so realistically that he resembled an actual stutterer. Miss Yi, I really am a stutterer, I didn't lie to you, Feng Shuani helplessly responded. I used to talk with a stutter, I merely got treated for it later. It appears I've wronged you, Yi Wanwan said with a mocking smile. Yeah. Feng Shuani nodded frantically. Yi Wanwan. This guy seriously knows how to make himself at home. Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. Enough nonsense. Spill the truth. Spill the truth. Feng Shuani was startled. Spill what? What was your objective for infiltrating the C family? Yi Wanwan asked solemnly. She wasn't stupid. This Feng Shuani was obviously a resident of the independent state, so how could he possibly be that seemingly naive little stutterer? Since things have reached this point, I'll speak frankly, Feng Shuani said while looking at Yi Wanwan after a moment of deliberation. To be truthful, the reason Captain brought us to China back then was to search for Captain's younger sister, Worryless Nya. I believe Miss Yi is aware of this matter. Realization dawned on Yi Wanwan. After all this trouble, it turned out Feng Shuani was a member of Nameless Nya's team. Yi Wanwan thought Nameless Nya was a team of 5 this whole time, but it appeared there was also Feng Shuani, so it should be a team of 6 instead. However, Yi Wanwan couldn't understand what Feng Shuani sneaking into the C family had anything to do with Nameless Nya searching for his sister. Could it be that Nameless Nya recognized her back then, so he intentionally ordered Feng Shuani to sneak into the C family and investigate? Of course, this thought only lasted a second before dissipating. With Nameless Nya's intelligence, if he could recognize her and come up with the plan of having Feng Shuani infiltrate the C family, how could he allow that imposter to become the official heiress of the Nya family? Yi Wanwan imperceptibly inspected Feng Shuani before chuckling lightly. So it's like that. You work for Nameless Nya, huh? You concealed yourself pretty deeply. However, hasn't Nameless Nya's sister returned home already? Why did you come to see me today? Feng Shuani observed Yi Wanwan for a moment before answering with a faint smile. Must you be like that, Miss Yi? You should know that the one in the Nya family right now is an imposter. An imposter? Yi Wanwan looked at Feng Shuani in astonishment. How did he know that Worryless Nya was an imposter? Miss Yi, I'm not my captain. Moreover, the fact that Miss Yi was able to come to the independent state and become the president of the Fearless Alliance means that you have at least recovered a portion of your memory and know some parts of your background. Feng Shuani casually sat down on the sofa and picked up an apple from the coffee table. Continue, Yi Wanwan said. Back then, when Miss Worryless established the Fearless Alliance, it was actually me who thought of the name Fearless Alliance. Feng Shuani nonchalantly responded and took a bite of the apple. Yi Wanwan was surprised. It was Feng Shuani who named the Fearless Alliance? Miss Worryless was rather close to me, so she discussed it with me when she first created the Fearless Alliance. Of course, this was a secret between Miss Worryless and me, and I stood by my promise and never told anyone about Miss Worryless founding the Fearless Alliance, Feng Shuani continued. Yi Wanwan didn't say anything and silently listened to him. Back then, I snuck into the C family because I found Miss Yi to be familiar-looking. After all, Miss Worryless went missing for so many years, so the saying, a girl changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood, would explain things. Secondly, the C family was an illustrious patrician family in China and held formidable power while we were strangers in China. If I depended on the unreliable captain and those other guys who wanted to discover Miss Worryless' whereabouts without any help, God knows when we'd find anything, Feng Shuani finished. Yi Wanwan pensively inquired, so you think I'm Worryless Nya? Feng Shuani lit a second cigarette and took a deep drag. Yi Wanwan glanced at Feng Shuani and pointed to a sign nearby. Smoking is prohibited. With an embarrassed expression, Feng Shuani snuffed out the cigarette before replying, my original plan was that even if you weren't Miss Worryless, I could still use the C family's power to look into Miss Worryless' whereabouts as long as I held enough power in the C family. No wonder you'd compete for the position of the hidden guard captain. Yi Wanwan murmured softly. That's right. Feng Shuani nodded lightly. In truth, becoming the captain of the C family hidden guard was merely the starting point. My goal was to become a higher-up in the C family within a short amount of time so that I could come into contact with the C family's core power and use it to investigate Miss Worryless whereabouts. However, Si Yihan coincidentally went missing not too long later, and I investigated the matter as per my orders. After I conducted a search in the study, I accidentally saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Things you weren't supposed to see, for example? Yi Wanwan asked. For example, memory masking and such. Feng Shuani's lips turned up. Yi Wanwan finally understood why she felt something was off back in the C family study, and the password lock looked like it had been opened. It turned out Feng Shuani had discovered the truth a step ahead of her. It appears you know everything. Yi Wanwan was outwitted. It had to be said that this Feng Shuani was truly different from the other members of Nameless Nye's squad. In contrast to them, Feng Shuani was practically a genius, alright? Yi Wanwan guessed that Feng Shuani held at least a military counselor role on Nameless Nye's team. I know everything, of course. Feng Shuani nodded. And you never told any of this to your captain? Yi Wanwan was puzzled. I haven't, Feng Shuani replied. You should know the captain's personality. If the captain learned about all of this, the consequences would be inconceivable and we'd definitely alert the enemies eventually, which would be terrible. Yi Wanwan couldn't resist inwardly giving Feng Shuani a thumbs up. That was too freaking wise. It was also why she was unwilling to tell Nameless Nye the truth. Actually, I just came back from China but immediately heard the news that the imposter is about to inherit the Nye family. I really had no other options, or else I wouldn't have rashly come to the Fearless Alliance today. I believe you also don't hope to watch someone else impersonating you forever, right, Miss Worryless? Feng Shuani asked. Indeed. However, although I've regained a portion of my memories, it's only a portion. It's not everything. Fortunately, I've recovered all of the memories regarding my background. As for the imposter, I haven't thought of a good method to expose her yet. Yi Wanwan had her own apprehensions. Nye Linglong wasn't some sitting duck. Otherwise, that imposter wouldn't be able to conceal herself so perfectly and retain her mask to this day. Let's put that aside for now. There was actually one other matter plaguing my mind. Feng Shuani paused briefly. Back then, when I discovered your identity in the C family study, Miss Worryless, I didn't dare to tell the captain, but I gave a general overview to the others. However, after that, you were hunted down immediately, Miss Worryless. I've looked into those people who hunted you and they're connected to that imposter. Yi Wanwan was startled, her brows locking together after some contemplation. What you mean is, my brother's team has a hidden traitor? Feng Shuani's words were no less than a giant bomb to Yi Wanwan. Whether it was brick-moving foreigner or Taoist devotee or spray of flowers or dead man, Yi Wanwan had treated them as very close friends. She neither believed nor was she willing to believe that one of them was a traitor. Heh. Feng Shuani shook his head. Miss Worryless, those people are my sworn brothers, and we've gone through fire and water together countless times. You're unwilling to believe there's a traitor amongst them, Miss Worryless, but I'm even more unwilling to believe it than you. However, the truth lies before us. Of course, we can't eliminate the possibility this is a mere coincidence. I hope it is a coincidence, Yi Wanwan said. Actually, Miss Worryless, I have an idea. Feng Shuani walked toward Yi Wanwan and whispered his thoughts next to her ear. After Feng Shuani departed, Yi Wanwan called Nameless Nye immediately and told him to bring everyone from his team to the Fearless Alliance for a meeting. Nameless Nye originally refused but reluctantly relented after a myriad of threats and temptations from Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan fumed with rage after she hung up. This brother of hers was seriously too good for nothing. His position as patriarch was stolen by the imposter, so she called him over to discuss some countermeasures. But what did he say? He said his parents had decided already, and he didn't want to fight over it since it wasn't like he'd win. Of course he wouldn't win. This half-wit wanted to fight for the right of inheritance with that imposter and Nye Linglong? Those two could annihilate him with a mere finger. The Nye residence. After Nameless Nye hung up the phone, he looked at his team. Captain, what is it? Is Miss Famous helping us seize back our power? Brick-moving foreigner hastily asked. Nameless Nye scratched the back of his head. That's what she said, but I still feel like something's strange about it. Even I can't win, let alone her. Iceberg Man, go go go. We're going to the Fearless Alliance to have lunch and there's money to get. Nameless Nye waved his arm and led them out of the Nye residence. It wasn't long before Nameless Nye arrived at the Fearless Alliance with his group in tow. A full table of good liquor and food sat in the enormous conference room. Boss Famous, thank you for inviting us to eat shit. Brick-moving foreigner thanked Yi Wan with a smile, revealing 2 rows of pearly teeth. Yi Wan. Big Dipper was astonished and automatically turned to 7-Star. Old 7, did I hear wrong? You didn't, 7-Star answered. Big Dipper turned to Brick-moving foreigner, dumbfounded. Bro, do you know what shit means? Huh. Brick-moving foreigner was startled. There was another meaning? Sensing things were about to go south, Taoist devotee hastily sent Big Dipper a look, but Big Dipper missed it completely. Shit? That's something you can't casually say, bro. Did you get tricked? Big Dipper walked toward Brick-moving foreigner and whispered a few words to him. The smile on Brick-moving foreigner's face instantly stiffened, and he viciously glared at his teammates. Say, aren't you guys too evil? Yi Wan couldn't help but criticize them. Ahem, let's talk business. Let's talk business first. Nameless Nye guiltily peered at Brick-moving foreigner. Will he hit me? Under Brick-moving foreigner's furious and resentful gaze, the meeting finally began. Yi Wan smiled at Nameless Nye faintly. Say, you're so evil, so how come you couldn't even win the mere right of inheritance to the Nye family? Nameless Nye was riled up instantly. Who's evil? That was damn Taoist devotee's wicked idea. It had nothing to do with me. Taoist devotee confusedly pointed at himself. Brick-moving foreigner's ferocious gaze promptly shot toward Taoist devotee. No, it wasn't me. It was Spray of Flowers. He did it. Bullshit. Spray of Flowers frantically shook his head in denial. It was Dead Man. It was him. Iceberg Man? Yi Wan was exasperated. Didn't the topic drift a little? This brother of hers deserved it for losing the Nye family's right of inheritance. If Nameless Nye won it with that brain of his, she could only say his parents spoiled him to the bones, but that clearly wasn't the case. Yi Wan waved her hand and ordered 7-Star and Big Dipper to go out first and keep watch outside the door. Let's drop this topic for now. Let me ask you, do you still want the Nye family's right of inheritance or not? A smirk curled up on Yi Wan's face. How? Nameless Nye was startled and immediately looked at Yi Wan, stuffing a dumpling in his mouth while he was at it. That's right, Boss Famous. We couldn't come up with a plan even though we plotted together. Taoist devotee urgently said. The Madam and Patriarch have an obvious bias. Everyone is aware of that. No matter what, the Nye family's right of inheritance won't end up in the captain's hands. Spray of Flowers sighed helplessly. Yi Wan mockingly looked over the group. Giving up so quickly? What? Do you plan to hand over everything from the Nye family? What else can I do? Don't tell me you can make my dad and mom change their minds? Nameless Nye looked at her, not understanding. There is a method. Yi Wan smiled at Nameless Nye. In truth, you just need to make Madame Nye become bitterly disappointed in Worryless Nye, no? It's so simple. Make my parents bitterly disappointed in Worryless? Nameless Nye was baffled but adamantly shook his head after a moment of thought. I can't. Worryless might not be strong enough to do well as the leader of the Nye family, but no matter what, she's my younger sister. How could I do such a thing? Yi Wan. Although Yi Wan was a bit frustrated in Nameless Nye, she also felt warmth flowing through her heart. He was truly her real brother. The current Worryless Nye might be an imposter, but Nameless Nye still treated that imposter as his sister. However, being touched was one thing, But Nameless Nye's unwillingness made this slightly awkward. Yi Wanwan's eyes swirled before she stared at Nameless Nye and mocked him. Do you think that'd be a good thing for your sister, Worryless Nye? You're gravely mistaken. Why? Nameless Nye was bewildered. Like you just said, the current Worryless Nye isn't capable enough and can't completely control the Nye family. Think about it. The independent state situation is so chaotic. If the incompetent Worryless Nye became the head of one of the 4 great clans, wouldn't you be shoving her into the eye of the storm? Yi Wanwan crafted a tale without blinking an eye. Before Nameless Nye could respond, Yi Wanwan continued, Can Worryless Nye handle the Nye family's complicated relationships well? Forget the internal problems. What about the external factions? What if one day, Worryless Nye wrecked the Nye family's centuries-old foundation because of her personal incompetency? Then Worryless Nye would become the eternal sinner of the Nye family. If this day comes, you'll be the culprit. Nameless Nye, brick-moving foreigner exclaimed, Wow, Boss Famous, you're so right. Taoist devotee also said, Damn. Really, a speech from Boss Famous is equivalent to enlightenment and is better than 10 years of studying. Spray of Flowers commented, So it's like that. Carefully thinking about it though, you're very right. A single what if can lead to you going down in history as a symbol of infamy, Iceberg Man. Damn, my good sister, how did you think of that? I nearly overlooked that. Nameless Nye looked stunned. Yi Wanwan inwardly mused. How did this group survive in the independent state until now? No wonder the Nye parents are unwilling to pass on the position of family head to Nameless Nye. Wait, hold on. Taoist devotee suddenly turned to Nameless Nye. If Captain inherits the Nye family, wouldn't the Nye family's eternal sinner turn into Captain instead? That's right, that's right. It'd be better to let Miss Worryless herself become the sinner. Brick-moving foreigner frantically nodded. Nameless Nye snorted. Damn bullshit. With my abilities and my business-minded head, if I inherited the Nye family, the family would only become better and scale new heights. It won't take long before the Nye family becomes the leader of the 4 great clans. Nameless Nye haughtily proclaimed. Spray of Flowers awkwardly looked at Nameless Nye. Captain, actually, isn't the Nye family already the leader of the 4 great clans? So what? In my eyes, the Shen family is the true leader of the 4 great clans. Nameless Nye countered. Yi Wanwan rolled her eyes at Nameless Nye. After all this trouble, the richest person was the boss in Nameless Nye's eyes. If they followed Nameless Nye's ranking, the Shen family wasn't some leader of the 4 great clans. They were clearly the leader of the independent state. The Fearless Alliance? The Jura? The Martial Arts Union? The bullshit ancient clans? They all had to kneel down and call the Shen family grandfather. Captain, Taoist devotee's lips twitched as though he wanted to say something. However, when Nameless Nye shot him a vicious glance, Taoist devotee frantically shook his head and groveled, Nothing, nothing. With the captain's abilities, the Nye family will definitely rise a step further and dominate the independent state. What's our slogan? Nameless Nye clapped his hands. Godly captain, free-spirited and talented. Handsome, 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 handsome. Strong, 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 strong. Brick-moving foreigner and Spray of Flowers cooperatively shouted the slogan. Yi Wanwan, can they replace this embarrassing slogan with something else? My good sister, how can we make my parents bitterly disappointed in Worryless and yield that position to me? Of course, it isn't because I covet the position of the family head. You should know my abilities. It'd be a piece of cake to create several Nye families. I merely don't want my brainless younger sister to become the Nye family's eternal sinner, Nameless Nye said to Yi Wanwan seriously. Yi Wanwan gave Nameless Nye an, I get you, look before quietly saying, we just need to set up a trap for Worryless Nye. Yi Wanwan then ran over the detailed plan with him. About half an hour later, Nameless Nye finally left the Fearless Alliance with his group so that they could carry out Yi Wanwan's plan. After they were completely gone, Yi Wanwan snapped her fingers. Come out. Feng Shuani lit a cigarette and naturally sat down on a conference chair near Yi Wanwan. Be more mindful. Yi Wanwan pointed at a nearby sign. Smoking is prohibited, Feng Shuani. Feng Shuani had no choice but to snuff out the cigarette he lit seconds ago. The plan has succeeded. What's your next step? Yi Wanwan inquired. I just need to wait for windfalls. Feng Shuani smiled. Aside from the captain, I've bugged the rest of their phones. If anyone contacts that counterfeit worryless Nye, we will know. Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. Are you sure? What if they don't call her and talk to her face to face? What would we do? Good question. Feng Shuani kept smiling. I've installed tapping devices on them too. Yi Wanwan, what if they don't speak and use secret signals to converse? Or sign language? Your plan isn't perfect. Yi Wanwan shook her head. My tapping device has a recording function, so your worries are superfluous, Miss Worryless, Feng Shuani genially replied. What else can I say? Yi Wanwan found herself rendered speechless. Miss Worryless? Do you think this method is very stupid? Feng Shuani asked in amusement. Are you saying it's very astounding and marvelous? Yi Wanwan retorted. Then do you think this stupid method is useful, Miss Worryless? Feng Shuani asked again. Yi Wanwan pondered it for a moment before nodding. Indeed. If there was a spy, the spy would definitely inform Worryless Nye in the shortest amount of time possible after obtaining this information. Based on Feng Shuani's method, as soon as the spy acted, Feng Shuani would be the first one to know. Soon, Feng Shuani turned on the giant TV in the office, and after some clicks and typing, 4 different scenes appeared on the TV. Viewpoints from Dead Man, Spray of Flowers, Brick-Moving Foreigner, and Taoist Devotee. How did you do it? Yi Wanwan couldn't help but give Feng Shuani a thumbs up. This guy was simply a genius. Their fearless alliance currently lacked this kind of talent. Yi Wanwan was tempted. Leaving Feng Shuani by that dimwit nameless Nye's side was an utter waste. But if he gave Feng Shuani to her, it would be a might redoubled for the fearless alliance. After all, having a single megamind her wasn't enough for the fearless alliance. Who gave the captain the guts to want to take the Nye family up a notch? I think that if the captain really became the head of the Nye family, he'd definitely become an eternal sinner. Does Boss Famous have some deep animosity with the captain? Taoist Devotee's guffaw suddenly emitted from the TV. Feng Shuani immediately stepped forward and saved a snippet of the video. What are you doing? Yi Wanwan looked at him in confusion. I'm obtaining some dirt so he'll be easy to threaten later, Feng Shuani answered. That's too freaking direct. Come, let me take you out to eat shit. This was an angry shout from Brick-Moving Foreigner. Little sweetie, let me explain. Spray of Flowers hastily called. Explain your grandma. Brick-Moving Foreigner charged towards Spray of Flowers. A second later, Iceberg Man and Spray of Flowers fled without a trace. Yi Wanwan couldn't help but laugh at the scene playing on the TV. This was indeed the quintet she knew. They didn't resemble spies at all. However, about an hour later, one of the viewpoints shifted. The person had arrived at some secluded location outside the Nye residence. Third Miss, Spray of Flowers' voice was heard. The video happened to clearly show Nye Linglong's face. You were looking for me. Nye Linglong turned to Spray of Flowers. The captain brought us to the Fearless Alliance today. To the Fearless Alliance? Nye Linglong looked indifferent. And then, Yi Wanwan has a plan to make Madam and Sir give up on Miss Worryless and pass on the position of family head to the captain. Spray of Flowers didn't sound very calm. In the next second, Spray of Flowers started reiterating the plan that Yi Wanwan revealed to them in the conference room without leaving a single word out. Watching this, Yi Wanwan was astonished. As for Feng Shuani, he looked disappointed. Third Miss, was Yi Wanwan really sent by the direct line to harm the Nye family? Spray of Flowers questioned doubtfully. What? You don't believe me? Nye Linglong expressionlessly asked. No. If it weren't for Third Miss saving my life back then, I would have died already. Spray of Flowers shook his head. I naturally believe your words, Third Mississippi. Then that's all, Nye Linglong said. But Feng Shuani said Yi Wanwan might be the real Miss Worryless. Could it be the one at home right now is fake? Spray of Flowers asked. Heh, absolutely idiotic. Nie Linglong aloofly chuckled. Direct Line knew you and the others went to China to search for Sister Worryless, so they sent Yi Wanwan to China in order to make you believe Yi Wanwan was the real Worryless Nie. However, I found Sister Worryless first, so the Direct Line's plan failed. Since Yi Wanwan failed to impersonate Sister Worryless, she's inciting eldest brother to fight for the position of family head. With eldest brother's brain, if he becomes the family head, I'm afraid the Nie family will become Yi Wanwan's in the future. Do you understand? Understood. Spray of Flowers nodded. All right, report everything you know to Sister Worryless. After all, it's Sister Worryless who will soon become the head of the Nie family, Nie Linglong said. I know what to do. A moment later, Spray of Flowers found Worryless Nie and informed her about everything he knew. She wants to plot to harm me? That trash? Worryless Nie sneered. Miss Worryless, don't blame the captain. The captain suffered some trauma back then, so you know how his mind is, Spray of Flowers said with a sigh. Of course I won't blame eldest brother. After all, he's being stirred up by someone else, the fake Worryless Nie replied. I'll leave now. Wait, Spray of Flowers, I have a mission for you. Go and kill that woman. A cold glint flashed through Worryless Nie's eyes. Spray of Flowers seemed unwilling. What? You can't do it? Asked Worryless Nie coldly. Miss Worryless, you should know the relationship between the captain and Yi Wanwan. Furthermore, Yi Wanwan is currently situated in the Fearless Alliance. How should I attack? Spray of Flowers shook his head. Spray of Flowers, your assassination skills are unparalleled. As long as you want to, don't tell me you can't do it. Moreover, someone like Yi Wanwan has treacherous intentions. If this continues, she'll definitely ruin eldest brother's reputation. Even if you don't care about the Nie family, can you bear to watch her keep harming eldest brother? I understand. However, I'm not fully confident. I can only try. After saying that, Spray of Flowers didn't give Worryless Nie a chance to reply and turned to leave. Inside the Fearless Alliance's conference room, Yi Wanwan involuntarily shivered as she watched this scene. After all this trouble, it turned out the most idiotic member of the quintet wasn't Nameless Nie. It was Spray of Flowers. Good. Feng Shuani sighed as though a burden had been lifted. He isn't a pure traitor, he's just rather stupidly loyal. At the mention of stupidly loyal, Luing instantly entered Yi Wanwan's mind. However, Luing was an incapable kind of stupidly loyal. This one was different. Actually, it was you who saved Spray of Flowers back then, Miss Worryless. Feng Shuani pensively looked at Yi Wanwan. I saved Spray of Flowers? Yi Wanwan was baffled. That's right. Spray of Flowers committed a great mistake and nearly caused our whole team to be wiped out. It was you who pleaded with Captain to spare Spray of Flowers, Miss Worryless. But Spray of Flowers himself doesn't know and thought it was Nie Linglong who pleaded on his behalf. Feng Shuani helplessly smiled. Yi Wanwan was still missing a large portion of her memory, so she wasn't at all familiar with what Feng Shuani said. If Feng Shuani was telling the truth, then she could only say Spray of Flowers was too stupid and was used by Nie Linglong this whole time. However, at least Spray of Flowers wasn't completely opposing and betraying them. Miss Worryless, it would be better to plan ahead. Spray of Flowers' brain is somewhat lacking. If he really believes in that imposter and Nie Linglong's words and comes to assassinate you, Miss Worryless, it really would be a little risky considering his strength, Feng Shuani advised with a helpless sigh. Yi Wanwan merely smiled. Little stutter, don't forget where we are. The Fearless Alliance, Feng Shuani answered without thinking. Yi Wanwan nodded lightly. Even if I didn't know Spray of Flowers was planning to come here to assassinate me, it wouldn't be easy for him to attack me inside the Fearless Alliance, let alone when I'm aware of his plan now. Feng Shuani smiled. Indeed. His worries seemed a bit superfluous in a place like the Fearless Alliance. Soon, Yuanwan summoned First Elder and Third Elder and made the best preparations they could in the shortest amount of time possible. It was easy to enter the current Fearless Alliance headquarters, but leaving would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Feng Shuani also didn't leave and remained in the Fearless Alliance to stay with Yi Wanwan. Currently, there were several dozens of people inside Yi Wanwan's office, including the Elders, Big Dipper, and Seven Star. Little Stutter, do you think Spray of Flowers will come? Yi Wanwan felt rather bored as the night turned late, and her gaze settled on Feng Shuani. She called so many people there to protect her with such great fanfare. Wouldn't it be too embarrassing if Spray of Flowers didn't come? Feng Shuani shook his head and chuckled lightly. That's difficult to say. After all, people with their intelligence aren't on the same wavelength as me. They might come or they might not come. Sis Feng, I don't think it's probable. Who would be suicidal enough to have the nerve to come to the Fearless Alliance and assassinate the president of the Fearless Alliance? Big Dipper looked at Yi Wanwan in confusion. Big Dipper quickly added, if it was me and I wanted to assassinate you, Sis Feng, I would wait until you left the Fearless Alliance before acting. Why would I come running to your headquarters to attack, Sis Feng? Yi Wanwan was at a loss for words. A problem that even Big Dipper could figure out, but Spray of Flowers couldn't? Little Stutter, turn the surveillance on, Yi Wanwan ordered some time later. Feng Shuani nodded and stood up to turn on the TV. Soon, several scenes appeared on the TV featuring viewpoints from Taoist devotee, Iceberg Man, and brick-moving foreigner. It was pitch dark with occasional thunderous snores, so they were clearly asleep. However, Spray of Flowers had a different view. The scene that appeared was very familiar. Isn't that our Fearless Alliance's third floor? Second Elder exclaimed in surprise when he saw the viewpoint from Spray of Flowers. Everyone quickly turned to the TV screen. As Second Elder said, the scene was the Fearless Alliance's third floor indeed. Feng Shuani immediately turned off the surveillance on Dead Man and the others, leaving only Spray of Flowers' angle behind so that the video was clearer. In the video, Spray of Flowers was extremely nimble and successfully avoided all the guards inside the Fearless Alliance, making his way to the upper floors from the stairs. Less than 20 minutes later, Spray of Flowers' camera showed their current floor. I take back everything I said. There really is a moron coming to the Fearless Alliance headquarters to assassinate our president. Big Dipper was dumbfounded as he watched this. Yi Wanwan smiled helplessly. Spray of Flowers was actually stupider than Big Dipper and didn't understand a principle that even Big Dipper understood. President will go take care of it. Third Elder eagerly volunteered as he stood up. However, Yi Wanwan shook her head and said, don't go out. We'll all stay here. Yes. Third Elder naturally didn't refute Yi Wanwan. Staying in place would do. Yi Wanwan looked at the TV screen. Spray of Flowers was rather swift and had arrived outside the office already. On the big screen, Spray of Flowers' angle spun a circle, as though the holder was checking for people nearby. After ascertaining his safety, Spray of Flowers drew his dagger and lightly pierced it into the door. Everyone inside the office stared at the dagger that appeared before turning to each other, bewildered. It had to be said that Spray of Flowers had extraordinary locking-picking skills. A few breaths later, the lock was destroyed and the office door was lightly pushed open with a soft sound. At the same time, several dozen pairs of eyes landed on the door. Spray of Flowers was dressed in all black. After he entered, he quickly turned around to close the office door again. However, when Spray of Flowers turned around again and met several dozen pairs of eyes, his expression became stupefied. This scene was so splendid it was difficult to describe. You're here, bud, Yi Wanwan greeted Spray of Flowers with a faint smile, standing up. Spray of Flowers? The stares that stared down Spray of Flowers were as sharp as knives. Old pal, why are you so slow? You should have just directly taken the elevator. Why did you climb the stairs? Second Elder frowned deeply at Spray of Flowers. If he took the elevator earlier, they wouldn't have needed to wait for so long. Spray of Flowers' mind seemed to have turned sluggish as he looked at everyone. He couldn't understand this current situation at all. What were they doing? There appeared to be something amiss. Spray of Flowers' expression became progressively embarrassed. Haha, are you all having a meeting? It's nothing, I just came to take a look. You can go back to work. After saying that, Spray of Flowers instantly turned around, planning to flee. Yi Wanwan and the others didn't move and allowed Spray of Flowers to leave. Unfortunately, the second Spray of Flowers stepped out of the office. He discovered the members of the Fearless Alliance had closed off this floor entirely without the slightest opening. Several hundred people were blocking his path right outside the door. Spray of Flowers had no choice but to retreat back into the office. He awkwardly chuckled as he said, "Boss Famous, are you pranking me?" "Pranking you?" Yi Wanwan shook his head. "I wouldn't dare. I haven't even done anything, yet you're already here to harm me. If I was pranking you, wouldn't I be dead without a burial place already?" Spray of Flowers frantically shook his head. "Boss Famous, what are you saying?" Spray of Flowers, here's the rope. Moments later, Feng Shuani walked out from the crowd and tossed a roll of nylon rope at Spray of Flowers' feet. "What is this?" Spray of Flowers stared at the rope, stunned. When Spray of Flowers saw Feng Shuani's face clearly, then reflexively turned to look at the big screen in the office, he felt like a bomb exploded in his head. Feng Shuani, you bloody stutter. You bloody bastard. It had to be you. Only you would do something so shameless. You actually helped someone prank me. Spray of Flowers immediately hurled all kinds of curses toward Feng Shuani when he regained his wits. Feng Shuani carelessly glanced at him and aloofly countered, "So what if I pranked you? It's not like I need to take any responsibility after pranking you." Spray of Flowers, enough nonsense. Be more obliging and don't wait until these good men from the Fearless Alliance act. They won't be so gentle then, Feng Shuani said to him after another sigh. You want me to bind myself up? What cosmic joke are you telling? This is humiliating. This is contempt. This is disrespect, Spray of Flowers shouted coldly. Spray of Flowers continued yelling, "No matter what, I was once a top-notch assassin. To me, there are only two types of missions. The first type is the ones where I succeed and I leave. In the second, I fail and don't leave. You want me to tie myself up? No way in hell." You've got quite the temper. Big Dipper stared at Spray of Flowers. "Since you won't act, let us come and help you." The members of the Fearless Alliance all converged onto Spray of Flowers. Seeing dozens of people approaching, embarrassment covered Spray of Flowers' face. Without any hesitation, he picked up the rope off the floor and tightly tied himself up in front of everyone. I'm just kidding. How can I allow everyone to do such rough work? No need for the trouble, I can do it myself. Everyone sit down, don't get tired. It's not worth it, Spray of Flowers obsequiously smiled. Aren't you a top-notch assassin? Tying yourself up should be contemptuous and humiliating to you, shouldn't it? Yi Wanwan asked curiously. Boss Famous, what are you saying? Isn't this history? I was once a top-notch killer. Furthermore, whether I tie myself up or not is unimportant. What's important is that I like to be humiliated and disdained and such, Spray of Flowers said. Big Dipper, 7-star. They had seen Shameless, but they had never seen someone this shameless. Seconds ago, he was acting like he was number one in this world and would rather die than submit, but in the blink of an eye, he lost all attitude. Boss Famous, how tightly should I bind myself? Spray of Flowers seriously asked Yi Wanwan. However you wish. Moments later, Yi Wanwan didn't know whether to cry or laugh as she surveyed Spray of Flowers, who had trussed himself up tightly. With this intelligence, he was a top-notch assassin? Punk, I'm telling you, you better not play any tricks. Tie yourself properly or else your grandpa Big Dipper will pierce you with a white knife and pull out a red blade. Big Dipper swiftly marched forward to inspect Spray of Flowers. Sis Feng, he really tied himself with a dead knot. It's all fine, Big Dipper reported to Yi Wanwan. You guys can leave now, Yi Wanwan said to everyone in the office. The elders quickly led everyone out of the office, quietly closing the door behind them. Yi Wanwan and Feng Shuani sat on the sofa and evaluated Spray of Flowers, who had trussed himself up tightly like he was an idiot. How does it feel? Feng Shuani asked the other man with a smile. You wicked thing. You actually helped Boss Famous attack me. Tell me, how much money did you take from Boss Famous? The smile on Feng Shuani's face instantly disappeared. He turned to Yi Wanwan as though he had woken up from a dream. That's right. You're now the president of the Fearless Alliance, and I'm considered a member of the Nye family. Me helping you is the same as being hired by the Fearless Alliance. About my wages, Feng Shuani quietly began. Yi Wanwan, she was wondering how Feng Shuani got along with nameless Nye's squad. Now, she finally understood. Dissimilar people didn't become family. Now isn't the time to discuss money. We'll shelve it, Yi Wanwan responded after a moment of thought. All right. Feng Shuani was very satisfied and nodded enthusiastically. Everything was swell as long as she agreed to pay him. Feng Shuani returned to the matter at hand. Spray of Flowers, you're quite gutsy. You actually dared to commit such a nefarious evil deed. I have a recording as proof for your actions, and I'll inform the captain and make him punish you. Spray of Flowers' expression shifted instantly. Don't you freaking dare to imitate me? Feng Shuani angrily glared at him. Who's imitating you? Fine, freaking again? I'm wrong, all right? Let's talk it out. You mustn't tell the captain. If you tell the captain, I'm as good as dead. Anxiety filled Spray of Flowers' face. They could beat him to death right now as long as they didn't tell nameless Nye. I said you're a dimwit, but you wouldn't admit it, yet you ridicule little sweetie every day? Which of them isn't smarter than you? Why would you listen to Nye Linglong and that imposter? They're telling you to go die, so why aren't you going? Feng Shuani disappointedly reprimanded. Imposter? Spray of Flowers was surprised and incredulous. You're saying the Miss Worryless at home is fake? If I remember correctly, I told you back in China that it's very possible Miss Wanwan is the true Worryless Nye, right? Feng Shuani asked. Miss Linglong said she's a member of the direct line. She came here to harm the Nye family and wants to make the entire Nye family disappear. Spray of Flowers frantically shook his head. Is Nye Linglong your real mom? Why are you believing everything she says? Don't you have a brain? Can't you think for yourself? Feng Shuani coldly lectured. Bloody stutter, you can humiliate me, but don't humiliate my mom. Spray of Flowers was enraged. Yi Wanwan, this guy might really be stupider than Big Dipper. I'm frankly telling you now. The person you came to assassinate today is the true Miss Worryless. Do you understand now? Feng Shuani said. What proof do you have? Spray of Flowers was unwilling to give up. Proof. Feng Shuani immediately tossed 2 DNA test results to Spray of Flowers. What is this? Spray of Flowers asked inquisitively. DNA test results. Yi Wanwan is young Master Tong Tong's biological mother, and the other report belongs to that imposter, who isn't young Master Tong Tong's biological mother, Feng Shuani explained. Not like I can read it. Spray of Flowers shook his head furiously. I didn't count on you to understand it. I'm simply telling you I've confirmed that Miss Wanwan is the true Worryless Nye, and the one at home is an imposter employed by Nye Linglong. You idiot, you've been used by Nye Linglong this whole time, Feng Shuani coldly explained while staring at Spray of Flowers. Spray of Flowers furrowed his brows. He had some previous suspicions. Nye Linglong kept telling him that Yi Wanwan was a member of the direct line, but no matter how you looked at it, Yi Wanwan had nothing to do with the direct line. However, it came from Nye Linglong's mouth, so Spray of Flowers chose to believe it. Also, idiot, because of you, you nearly destroyed our whole team. It was Miss Worryless who wrote a letter to the captain to plead on your behalf that you were pardoned from death, Feng Shuani added. It was Miss Worryless who pleaded on my behalf? Spray of Flowers was dumbfounded. Take a look for yourself. This is the letter Miss Worryless personally wrote back then. A yellowing letter somehow appeared in Feng Shuani's hands. I'm tied up, how should I read it? Spray of Flowers cried. Feng Shuani had no choice but to open the letter and hold it in front of Spray of Flowers. After Spray of Flowers finished reading the letter, he was surprised. The contents of the letter were indeed a plea on his behalf, and the name at the bottom was Worryless Nye indeed. But previously, Nye Linglong kept misleading him, making him think the one who pleaded on his behalf back then was her, Nye Linglong. This meant Nye Linglong had been deceiving him this whole time? Are you really Miss Worryless? Spray of Flowers looked at Yi Wanwan. The one and only, Yi Wanwan answered. But if you're really Miss Worryless, why would Nye Linglong say you're from the direct line? Spray of Flowers asked with a frown in confusion. You idiot. Do you need to ask? Feng Shuani shot him a look. Nye Linglong found an impostor to impersonate Miss Worryless and is now helping that impostor seize control over the Nye family. Nye Linglong clearly wants to control the Nye family, but her objective remains unknown. Wait, if it's as you say, Nye Linglong can just inherit the Nye family herself. Why would she need to find an impostor? That doesn't make any sense. Is Nye Linglong dumb? Spray of Flowers hastily countered. Feng Shuani meaningfully stared at Spray of Flowers and appeared to be unable to control himself anymore and felt driven up a wall. He angrily shouted, "Where's my sword? Miss Worryless, give me a sword. I have to cut open his head today and see what the heck is inside." Don't. Calm down first. Yi Wanwan patiently started pacifying Feng Shuani. It had to be said that for the holder of the brains like Feng Shuani, conversing with Spray of Flowers was truly freaking tiring. After Feng Shuani used everything he had to calm himself down, he turned to Spray of Flowers again. Are you freaking stupid? Nye Linglong was adopted by Miss Worryless into the Nye family. She isn't related to the Nye family by blood. What right does she have to inherit the Nye family? If she didn't find an impostor, it'd definitely be the captain who inherited the Nye family. Do you understand now? Spray of Flowers furiously bobbed his head. Right. If you freaking imitate when I used to stutter again, I'm gonna seriously kill you. Feng Shuani viciously rebuked. Who's imitating you? Don't be so sensitive, alright? What I mean is that Nye Linglong indeed isn't related to the Nye family by blood and can't inherit the Nye family. Yi Wanwan's gaze settled on Spray of Flowers. Do you believe it now? It feels a little like I'm dreaming. Everything hit too suddenly. Spray of Flowers looked at Yi Wanwan as he said, In truth, I didn't plan to assassinate you today. If I wanted to assassinate you, I wouldn't have chosen the Fearless Alliance as the location. I merely wanted to figure out whether you were a member of the direct line and whether you wanted to harm the Nye family or not. However, I'm glad I came here today. If I had to choose, I choose to believe Feng Shuani. After all, we've known each other for so many years and traveled to hell and back. Feng Shuani wouldn't lie to me. Yi Wanwan nodded with satisfaction. Good, he was still salvageable and wasn't stupid beyond cure. As long as you understand, Feng Shuani said. Can you untie me? I'm a top-notch assassin, to say the least. This isn't too appropriate, Spray of Flowers requested with an awkward chuckle. Yi Wanwan nodded and had Feng Shuani untie Spray of Flowers. After Spray of Flowers worked out his kinks, he sat down on a nearby chair. So what should I do now? Spray of Flowers looked at Yi Wanwan. Before she could respond, Spray of Flowers added, You're really Miss Worryless, right? Yi Wanwan answered with a sigh, I'm really worryless, Nye. I believe you. Spray of Flowers nodded. Thank you for pleading for leniency on my behalf back then, Miss Worryless. I really don't remember the past, Yi Wanwan responded. After Feng Shuani's explanation, Spray of Flowers finally learned the whole story behind Yi Wanwan's amnesia. Miss Worryless, don't worry. I will definitely reap Siyihan's bastard life and avenge you. Spray of Flowers furiously shouted with clenched fists. Yi Wanwan's lips twitched, and she turned to Feng Shuani. Where's my knife? Don't be impulsive. Feng Shuani hastily pulled Yi Wanwan back. Spray of Flowers was stupefied. What now? Whether we take revenge or not is none of your business. Feng Shuani massaged his temples. All right, I'll do whatever you say. Spray of Flowers nodded. Whether it's climbing a mountain of swords and plunging into a sea of flames, I won't hesitate. We don't need you to go to any mountains of swords or seas of flames. Feng Shuani smiled faintly at the other man. Tomorrow, you'll bring Miss Worryless back as a prisoner. Find that imposter and tell him you've abducted the person for her. Yi Wanwan started. Hold on. He didn't discuss this with me beforehand. Why do I need to get abducted? She wasn't the only baffled one. Spray of Flowers was also bewildered. A recluse naturally possesses brilliant schemes, Feng Shuani said in response. That night, Yi Wanwan and Spray of Flowers attentively listened to Feng Shuani's plan and couldn't help but clap in amazement at the end. The next morning, Feng Shuani and Spray of Flowers took a nap in the office, and Yi Wanwan used this opportunity to take care of some documents from Feng Shuani and craft a plan to search for Ji Xiuran and the other missing people. As for the Scarlet Flames Academy, the headmaster was absent and had gone on a mental journey somewhere, so she planned to wait until the headmaster returned before going back to submit her mission and undergo a third hypnosis session. President. Several knocks were heard from the office door. Enter, Yi Wanwan called out. First Elder entered the office and first looked at the snoring Spray of Flowers before turning to Yi Wanwan in confusion. Why did this assassin get untied? And why was he sleeping inside the Fearless Alliance? He defected, Yi Wanwan explained. First Elder immediately showed Yi Wanwan a thumbs up as he exclaimed, "You're seriously our president. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. What's the matter?" Yi Wanwan placed down the document she was reading and focused on First Elder. "President, there's someone from the Ling family here to see you," First Elder responded. The Ling family? Yi Wanwan was startled. Which Ling family? The Ling family, one of the independent state's 4 great clans, First Elder answered. Yi Wanwan was confused. One of the independent state's 4 great clans, the Ling family? Both she and the Fearless Alliance didn't have any interactions with the Ling family, so why did someone from the Ling family want to see her? President, you should at least see them since they're one of the 4 great clans after all, First Elder suggested. Yi Wanwan mulled over it for a moment before promptly nodding. All right, lead them to the conference room first. I'll arrive momentarily. 10 or so minutes later, Yi Wanwan pushed open the door to the conference room. Inside the conference room, a middle-aged man was waiting. Yi Wanwan sat down on the chief's seat before turning to look at him with a faint smile. The Ling family's visit to my Fearless Alliance truly brings light to my humble dwelling. However, may I ask what urgent matter brought you here? Yi Wanwan found this middle-aged man to look familiar. After some thought, she recalled she seemed to have met this man from the Ling family back at the charity auction held by the 4 great clans, and they shared a look. President Bai, I trust you have been well since we last met at the auction? The man greeted her with a cordial smile. That's right. Yi Wanwan nodded. All right, I don't like to beat about the bush, so let's get to the main point. The main point? Yi Wanwan was puzzled. She couldn't understand this man's words. Worryless, when will you come back to the Ling family? The elderly sir misses you, the man softly said. Yi Wanwan froze in her spot. Weren't his words a bit of an information overload? Yi Wanwan swiftly regained her composure and looked at the man. Worryless? I don't understand what you're saying. Worryless, the funds you used to establish the Fearless Alliance back then were given to you by the elderly sir, the man responded in amusement. Yi Wanwan lost her upper hand due to this line. The funds to establish the Fearless Alliance were given to her by the elderly sir? Why? Why would the elderly sir of the Ling family give her funds? What was her relationship with the elderly sir of the Ling family? What? Don't tell me you're going to copy your dad, Worryless, and completely break all ties with the Ling family? The man looked displeased. The Worryless Nye you're referring to should be in the Nye family, right? Yi Wanwan furtively probed. What a joke. That's an imposter in the Nye family. The man snorted. Before Yi Wanwan could respond, the conference room door was opened and Feng Shuani entered. Uncle Ling, Miss Worryless' memory was masked in China a long time ago, and she lost most of her memory, Feng Shuani explained with a sigh. What? That happened. The man was astonished. No wonder. No wonder Worryless never came to the Ling residence to visit the elderly sir after coming back and didn't even take care of that impostor in the Nye family. That day at the auction, I thought she intentionally pretended to not recognize me. The man was pensive. He turned to Yi Wanwan and sighed softly. However, Worryless, your appearance seriously changed a lot over these years. You're prettier than before. If it weren't for the helm of President Fearless over your head, I really might not recognize you. What's going on? Yi Wanwan's gaze landed on Feng Shuani. Feng Shuani smiled and said to Yi Wanwan, Miss Worryless, I'm also a member of the Ling family. However, the elderly sir is worried about the captain, so he sent me to stay by the captain's side many years ago. You're a member of the Ling family? Yi Wanwan stared at Feng Shuani. Wait, no, isn't your surname Feng? The man and Feng Shuani looked at each other with exasperated expressions. Miss Worryless, you lost your memory, so perhaps you don't remember the affairs between the Nye family and the Ling family. Feng Shuani sighed and promptly started explaining. Miss Worryless, the elderly sir of the Ling family is actually your paternal grandfather and the father of the current patriarch Nye. Yi Wanwan was stupefied. Patriarch Nye? Freaking! Didn't Patriarch Nye have the surname Nye? How was he related to the Ling family? Back then, after your maternal grandfather, who was the previous head of the Nye family, became the president of the Martial Arts Union, he passed on the Nye family to your mother. The Nye family and the Ling family used to be the greatest enemies in the independent state, and elderly Sir Ling and your grandfather were like water and fire. The Ling family and the Nye family had all sorts of battles and scuffles. Yi Wanwan remained silent and intently listened to Feng Shuani. After your mother inherited the Nye family, she fell in love with one of elderly Sir Ling's sons. When your grandfather learned of this, he was thunderous with rage and employed all sorts of methods and schemes to destroy the marriage between the Ling family and the Nye family. However, they didn't work. As for your father, to express his sincerity, he separated from the Nye family of his own volition and even changed his previous Ling surname into Nye. Feng Shuani quietly said. Yi Wanwan never expected her parents to have had such a world-shaking story. When your grandfather saw that the rice was cooked, he completely broke all ties with the Nye family in his rage and prohibited anyone from mentioning his relationship with the Nye family, Feng Shuani continued. A piece of memory started replaying in Yi Wanwan's mind. An elderly man carrying a crying little girl and telling the girl her dad and mom didn't deserve to be parents. Yi Wanwan finally understood why her grandfather was so angry. It made sense. The son of his eternal enemy married his daughter, and his daughter gave his Nye family away. No one else would be able to tolerate it either probably. When Miss Worryless was young, your grandfather took you away to raise you to punish your parents and prohibited you from returning to the Nye family to see your parents. It wasn't until you were grown up, Miss Worryless, that you returned to the Nye residence several times and lived there for some time, Feng Shuani said. I see, Yi Wanwan nodded lightly. No wonder. Feng Shuani was clearly a member of the Ling family but charged his Ling surname to Feng after going to the Nye family. It was because the relationship between these two families was too unusual. Right now, the Ling family also didn't recognize Patriarch Nye, which meant they had cut all ties with Patriarch Nye too. But the Ling family was greatly concerned about her and Nameless Nye, or else the elderly sir wouldn't have sent Feng Shuani to Nameless Nye's side. Worryless, is there news of your grandfather? The man turned to Yi Wanwan and inquired moments later. Yi Wanwan shook her head. I've completely forgotten about that segment of memory. I don't even know how Grandpa went missing. All right, let's not mention this for the time being. Ever since the elderly sir learned you came back to the independent state, he's been very excited and elated and has been waiting for you to visit the Ling residence, the man said. Uncle Ling, when I have time, I'll definitely visit, Yi Wanwan promised after some thought. After obtaining a promise from Yi Wanwan, the man looked comforted. Worryless, what about your memory? Can you recover it? The man asked as he stood up. I'm currently in the middle of recovering it. It shouldn't take much longer, Yi Wanwan answered after some contemplation. The man nodded. Good. If you run into any difficulties or need any assistance, come directly to the Ling family. Thank you. Yi Wanwan smiled at him. Although she didn't possess any memories related to the Ling family contained her grandfather and many other family members. This was unalterable and also surprising. After the man left, Yi Wanwan started reassessing Feng Shuani. No wonder Feng Shuani was a genius. He turned out to be someone sent from the Ling family by grandfather to watch over her unreliable elder brother. However, with someone like this by Nameless Nie's side, Nameless Nie probably wouldn't run into any serious trouble. Despite Yi Wanwan's intense desire to see her grandfather and family members at the Ling family, she didn't have any free time right now. Yi Wanwan and Feng Shuani soon returned to her office and woke up Spray of Flowers. Under Feng Shuani's instructions, Spray of Flowers covertly led Yi Wanwan out of the Fearless Alliance. However, Spray of Flowers didn't take Yi Wanwan back to the Nie residence. Instead, they headed to a prison near the Nie residence. Many elite members of the Fearless Alliance had hidden near the prison location, mainly to prevent accidents. After taking care of everything, Spray of Flowers circumvented Nie Linglong and called the imposter directly. Miss Worryless. I've captured and brought the person to the prison, Spray of Flowers said after the call connected. Worryless Nie quickly rushed toward the prison with several confidants in tow. It's you. Surprise crept onto Yi Wanwan's expression when she saw the imposter. Worryless Nie's eyes were chilly as she stared at Yi Wanwan, her lips curling up with a smirk. Heh, a little bitch, you still ended up in my hands, no? Worryless Nie didn't wait for Yi Wanwan to reply before turning to Spray of Flowers and happily praised him. You did a good job this time. However, why did you imprison her instead of killing her? Spray of Flowers listened to Feng Shuani through the hidden earphone and repeated, Miss Worryless, I captured her at the Fearless Alliance, which didn't allow me to kill her at all. It's already a miracle I was able to abduct her. Moreover, I wanted to ask Miss Linglong for her opinion. Worryless Nie frowned. Inquire Linglong about her opinion? Spray of Flowers, I'm the one who's about to become the head of the Nie family. But, there is no but. From now on, do exactly as I tell you. Worryless Nie glanced at Spray of Flowers. Spray of Flowers, I didn't expect you to be a traitor. You've let Nameless Nie down. Yi Wanwan shouted harshly at him. Shut up. Spray of Flowers yelled. You're a member of the direct line. You befriended the captain because you wanted to gain control over the Nie family and even destroy the Nie family. Don't think I don't know that you've been using the captain this whole time. After saying that, Spray of Flowers promptly turned to Worryless Nie and said, Miss Worryless, I've got to head back or else the captain will notice. All right. Head back first, don't worry. We're doing this for eldest brother, you got it? The fake Worryless Nie said meaningfully. I understand. Spray of Flowers nodded and left. Head back first. After Spray of Flowers left, Worryless Nie placed the order as she waved her hand at her confidants. Soon, Yi Wanwan and Worryless Nie were the only people left in the prison. Little bitch, now that you're in my hands, I'll make you beg for death. Worryless Nie coldly sneered. Do you dare? Yi Wanwan didn't appear the slightest bit scared and met Worryless Nie in the eyes. If you dare to hurt me, you'd be waging war with the Fearless Alliance. I'm afraid you're not strong enough for that. The Fearless Alliance? The fake Worryless Nie suddenly broke into laughter. Unfortunately, they're idiots. If it's just the Fearless Alliance, I don't believe they will discover who did it. Even if they do, they'd only find Spray of Flowers. Despicable and shameless. Yi Wanwan shouted. Despicable? Shameless? Worryless Nie clicked her tongue. If you kneel in front of me and beg me, perhaps I can give you sweet relief. Come on, kneel down in front of me. Beg me. Are you kidding me? You're the one who should be kneeling down, you imposter, Yi Wanwan coldly retorted. Worryless Nie's expression shifted. It appears you indeed know everything. Of course I do. You impersonated me and snuck into the Nie family. Yi Wanwan fumed with rage as she stared at worryless Nye. Indeed, I impersonated your identity, but so what? As long as those two old farts from the Nye family believe it, it's fine. Worryless Nye laughed mockingly. Now that you mention it, it is quite funny. In truth, the Ling family, Scarlet Flames Academy, even Emperor Ji, they all suspect my identity. However, your idiotic parents wholeheartedly believe I am worryless Nye due to their guilt and indulgent love. Tell me, who else can you blame? However, this is heaven's will. The Ling family and the Nye family are eternal enemies, and the Scarlet Flames Academy has even fewer interactions with the Nye family. As for Emperor Ji, he doesn't have any proof, so no one can expose my identity. After you die, I'll inherit the Nye family completely. Your son and everything that belongs to you will become mine. Heh, are you angry? Worryless Nye cheerfully taunted. You won't end up well. Yi Wanwan yelled. Unfortunately, you'll die before me. The fake worryless Nye wasn't concerned at all. She didn't allow Yi Wanwan to say anything else and called her confidants inside. The succession ceremony is about to begin, so it's a pity I won't have time to play with you. Worryless Nye lamented with a faint smile before turning to her confidants. Torture her well, and then, worryless Nye made a swiping motion across her neck with her hand. Don't worry. We know what to do, a confidant responded. Be clean and nimble. After saying that, worryless Nye turned and left. The confidant's icy gazes landed on Yi Wanwan. At that time, the Nye residence was packed with people and teeming with guests. Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye were sitting in the seats of honor with cordial smiles on their faces. Nameless Nye stood on the side, obvious displeasure on his face, and he constantly surveyed his surroundings. Captain, Boss Famous is unreliable too. She claimed she could allow you to inherit the Nye family. Sigh. Taoist devotee said with a sigh. Nameless Nye shot Taoist devotee a look. Do you think I care about the position of family head? What a joke. With my abilities, I can easily create a dozen Nye families. It'd be a piece of cake. Taoist devotee and brick-moving foreigner met each other's eyes and tacitly lowered their heads. Actually, you don't need to be so depressed, Captain. As one of the 4 great clans, the Nye family has such a large workload every day and also needs to maintain their relationships with all the external major factions, so you'd be tired to death. I think it's a good thing you aren't inheriting the Nye family, Taoist devotee said to Nameless Nye with a snicker as he looked up. Nameless Nye snorted. Who said I'm depressed? I'm a free bird. I wouldn't want to be the head even they wanted me to. Brick-moving foreigner turned to his captain and brightly said, I just learned a saying, Captain. It's puffing oneself up at one's own cost. Do you think it's a fitting description of you, Captain? Nameless Nye fiercely glared at brick-moving foreigner. Don't you freaking know how to talk? Hold your tongue back if you don't know how to talk. Brick-moving foreigner was dumbfounded. Did he get tricked again? More and more leaders and important figures were entering the Nye residence, and everyone congratulated Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye with big grins. Tang Tang, after your mom inherits the role as the head, you will become the heir to the Nye family. You have to behave and act responsibly, do you understand? Madame Nye softly instructed Tang Tang as she looked at the expressionless Tang Tang sitting next to her. Tang Tang looked at Madame Nye and considered it for a moment before saying, Grandma, I don't want to be the heir to the Nye family. Nonsense. You can't say these kinds of things. Patriarch Nye rebuked him with a frown, his expression changing when he heard that. Before Tang Tang could respond, the originally boisterous Nye residents abruptly turned quiet. Worryless Nye was slowly walking to the center of the room in a long dress with a gentle smile hanging on her face. Next to Worryless Nye was Nye Linglong. Haha, Miss Worryless, congratulations, congratulations. Many higher-ups of various factions all congratulated her with a smile. Worryless Nye merely nodded at each of them in response. They all say Miss Worryless Nye of the Nye family is considered one of the brightest young stars of the independent state. Now that she's inheriting the Nye family, It's a celebratory matter for the Nye family and even the entire independent state, an elderly man merrily said to worryless Nye as he stood up. Thank you to all the seniors who came to support me. My abilities are still greatly lacking, so I'll need to learn from you seniors after inheriting the Nye family, worryless Nye responded with a smile on her lips. You're too humble, Miss Worryless. Indeed. From now on, with Miss Worryless leading the Nye family, assisted by Miss Linglong and the eldest young master, I believe the Nye family will definitely scale new heights. With your abilities, elder sister, it won't be a problem for you to take over the Nye family. Nye Linglong also interjected with a light chuckle. Nye Linglong had an aloof smile on her face. After worryless Nye inherited the Nye family, it would be the same as her gaining control. At that time, she could use the Nye family's name to disintegrate the remaining 3 patrician families one by one. Oh right, Miss Worryless, is there any news of your fiancé, Emperor D yet? A middle-aged man inquired from the crowd. Worryless Nye looked pensive and contemplated it for a moment before answering, I'm greatly saddened by Chiron's disappearance, and I've been looking into it this whole time. However, the news we obtained was that the disappearances all seem to bear some significant connection to the Fearless Alliance. Connected to the Fearless Alliance? A shock swept over the occupants of the room. That can't be right? A higher-up looked at worryless Nye and said with a frown, although the Fearless Alliance is guilty of monstrous crimes and formidable in their own right, and it wouldn't be strange if they did such a thing, is the Fearless Alliance really this capable? Forget about Emperor G, but the Fearless Alliance can't even defeat Heavenly Owl. Sometimes we're hidden in the dark. Worryless Nye swept her eyes over everyone and explained, the leader of Heavenly Owl is extremely good friends with President Fearless by phone. It'd be a different story if the two were familiar and Heavenly Owl's leader wasn't on guard against by phone at all. No one contradicted worryless Nye's words this time. It was indeed very easy to harm an acquaintance since you were meat on the cutting board regardless of how strong you were if you weren't vigilant. Everyone in this room was aware of the relationship between the Fearless Alliance and Heavenly Owl. It would be very simple for President Fearless to abduct the leader of Heavenly Owl. In truth, there were some Heavenly Owl higher-ups who were suspicious, but they didn't have any solid evidence, so it's difficult for them to act, worryless Nye continued. It is as you say, but I'm afraid it isn't so easy to explain Emperor G's disappearance. Someone raised their doubts. Forget about Heavenly Owl, but who was G Chiron? Furthermore, he didn't have any interactions with the Fearless Alliance, so the Fearless Alliance couldn't possibly abduct Emperor G from his headquarters regardless of how formidable they were, right? This matter is a bit hard to explain. A soft sigh was released from worryless Nye's mouth and a helpless expression draped over her face. As everyone knows, G Chiron is my fiancé. However, some time ago, President Fearless butted into our relationship. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. G Chiron and the president of the Fearless Alliance. Not too long later, G Chiron disappeared. I'm certain that this was also the Fearless Alliance's doing. Worryless Nye swore vehemently. That's right, aside from Emperor G, Bai Feng seems to also have an ambiguous relationship with Lord Azura of Azura. It isn't just Lord Azura. There's also eldest young Master Shin. A smile surfaced in the fake worryless Nye's eyes as the discussion ran rampant. She continued, moreover, not too long ago, Bai Feng used a normal person's identity to worm her way into our Nye family and tricked my mother into taking her as a foster daughter, and she's good friends with my elder brother as well. Hence, I suspect that Bai Feng is actually a member of the direct line. They want to make a comeback and cause chaos in the independent state. The guests all shuddered at the mention of direct line. Back then, the direct line and the collateral branch fought ferociously, and the direct line swore they'd return stronger one day before being kicked out. Damn, you've watched too many dramas, right? Nameless Nye glanced at worryless Nye. Eldest brother, you've been bewitched by the Fearless Alliance. The fake worryless Nye's expression didn't change. Before she could continue, Tang Tang suddenly icily stated, don't slander my mommy. Everyone's expressions turned odd. This little young master of the Nye family actually called the president of the Fearless Alliance, Mommy. Tangting, it's me who's your mommy. The fake worryless Nye frowned deeply at Tangting. My mommy shouldn't be someone like you, Tang Tang coldly retorted. Worryless Nye's expression instantly became troubled, and she looked at everyone. I believe everyone can see for yourself that our Nye family has also been affected by the Fearless Alliance. Even my own son recognizes the president of the Fearless Alliance but treats me, his biological mother, so vilely. A feverish whisper blazed through the room. Many factions present had grievances with the Fearless Alliance to some extent, so Worryless Nye's words both alarmed and angered them. If what Worryless Nye was saying was correct, then the Fearless Alliance's existence was truly too frightening. Madame Nye glanced at Worryless Nye with a tinge of displeasure. Madame Nye held fondness for Yi Wanwen, and Worryless Nye had never mentioned any of this to her. However, Worryless Nye would start managing the Nye family starting today and was the new head of the Nye family, so she naturally couldn't raise any doubts toward Worryless Nye in such a public setting. On behalf of our Nye family as well as my fiancé, after I take over the Nye family, I will declare war on the Fearless Alliance, the fake Worryless Nye coldly announced. Haha, Miss Worryless is eradicating evil for the independent state. Whether the disappearances of Emperor Ji and those leaders were caused by the Fearless Alliance, the Fearless Alliance has run rampant and lawless in the independent state for too long. They murder and plunder. They are a cancerous tumor. If the Nye family declares war on the Fearless Alliance, I will offer my full support. We will also fully support you. Many factions instantly declared their position to Worryless Nye. To them, they merely wanted to develop friendly relations with the Nye family. If the Nye family was attacking the Fearless Alliance, then the Nye family would definitely be the main force. They just needed to offer some manpower and gild the lily, and they would make the Nye family remember their camaraderie. My mommy never did any of this, Tang Tang seriously said while staring at Worryless Nye. Tang, you can't speak to your mom like this, Nye Linglong admonished him. If I can't talk like this, how should I talk then? Tang Tang glanced at Nye Linglong. Worryless Nye rebuked harshly, Tangning, you can speak to me however you want when we're at home, but what day is it today? Mommy has declared war on the Fearless Alliance already, yet you're still speaking on their behalf. So what? I'm merely telling the truth, Tang Tang countered. After I inherit the Nye family, you will be the next heir of the Nye family. But you truly disappoint me too much. Worryless Nye shot forward and grabbed Tong Tong's right hand, dragging him toward the front. However, Tang Tang seemed unwilling and didn't move his legs. Little young Master Tang Tang, this is your true mom. How can you recognize the president of the Fearless Alliance as your mother? A middle-aged man said to Tang Tang. That's right. The Fearless Alliance's notoriety rings far and wide. You mustn't have any interactions with the Fearless Alliance, little young Master Tang Tang. This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh Light Novel. Org Tang Tang swept his eyes over everyone and expressionlessly said, the weak like to gather together and criticize the strong. Everyone was startled. Didn't this little young master of the Nye family talk too horribly? Suddenly, Worryless Nye lifted her right arm and forcefully slapped Tang Tang on the face. Tanging, how could you act so insolently today? Worryless Nye sternly berated him. Worryless, what are you doing? Madame Nye looked at the fake Worryless Nye. Tang Tang is still young, so it's normal for him to be unmindful. How could you hit him? Mom, it's exactly because Tang Tang is still young that I have to teach him. If he grows older, how could I teach him then? Back then, I left the independent state and was remiss in my duties as a mother. I'm back now though, so I will be the one teaching my son, Worryless Nye argued. Madame Nye wanted to say something, but Patriarch Nye sent her a look, signaling her to refrain. Madame Nye was silent in thought for a moment and ended up biting her words. After all, the leader of the Nye family would be Worryless Nye from now on, so it wasn't appropriate to say anything more so publicly. What the heck are you doing? Nameless Nye demanded, incredibly displeased. You disappeared for so many years, but you have the gall to hit Tang Tang? Worryless Nye retorted frigidly, Brother, I'm disciplining my son. It's none of your business. Nameless Nye wanted to refute her but couldn't find an appropriate excuse despite careful thought. Tang Tang, apologize. Worryless Nye ordered the child. Many of the people who were ridiculed by Tang Tang minutes earlier inwardly snickered. Thank goodness Worryless Nye wasn't a protective parent. This little young master of the Nye family was simply unruly and indeed deserved to be punished. Tang Tang icily stared at Worryless Nye. A cold glint flashed in Worryless Nye's eyes, and she raised her right arm, as though she was going to slap Tang Tang again. However, before Worryless Nye's hand could land, a snort was heard from far away. Heh, you haven't become the head of the Nye family yet, but you have such an awful temper already? If you truly became the head of the Nye family, how outrageously would you act then? Everyone turned to the front of the room, their expressions shifting when they saw the newcomer. The Fearless Alliance? Bi Bai Feng. With Yi Wanwan at the front, several elders, a dozen or so higher-ups, and more than 100 elite members of the Fearless Alliance had arrived. Worryless Nye's expression turned a little strange when she saw Yi Wanwan. That little bitch didn't die. Could it be the Fearless Alliance found the prison that quickly and rescued her? An icy smile spread across Worryless Nye's face. It was fine that she didn't die. President Fearless, today is a joyous day at the Nye family. Why did you come here? A higher-up from a faction questioned coldly. None of your fucking business. Shut up. Big Dipper irritatedly pointed at the speaker. Mommy, joy surfaced in Tang Tang's eyes when he saw Yi Wanwan, and he went to walk toward her. However, Worryless Nye was still clutching Tang Tang and kept him by her side. Heh, President Bai, if I remember right, our Nye family didn't invite you, no? The fake Worryless Nye mocked. Yi Wanwan didn't answer and walked toward Tang Tang instead before asking, This woman hit you just now? Tang Tang lightly nodded. How did she hit you? Yi Wanwan's face was frosty. A slap, Tang Tang replied. After looking at Tang Tang's slightly swollen left cheek, Yi Wanwan instantly straightened up and lifted her right arm before Worryless Nye could react. In the blink of an eye, everyone watched as a slap mercilessly landed on Worryless Nye's face. The loud slap was akin to a clap of thunder. When everyone regained their wits, they incredulously stared at Worryless Nye and the fresh handprint on her face. Damn, Nameless Nye stared at Yi Wanwan, dumbfounded. Captain, this isn't right. Didn't Boss Famous say earlier that she'd make Madame and Sir bitterly disappointed in Worryless Nye? Why did she come here to confront them outright? Taoist devotee asked with surprise, looking at Nameless Nye. You're asking me, but how should I know? Nameless Nye reflexively replied. Madame Nye especially never would have expected Yi Wanwan to do such a thing today. You hit me? Worryless Nye coldly glared at Yi Wanwan after she shook off her daze. Slap. Yi Wanwan backhanded her again mercilessly. Hitting you isn't the objective, Yi Wanwan icily replied. It's merely a side stop on your path toward death. You hit my son, so you deserve to die. President Bai, where do you think you are? Nye Linglong demanded. Several dozens of martial artists working with Nye Linglong quickly rushed toward the room. Let me see who dare. Third elder yelled. Sis Feng, let's not act recklessly. This is the Nye residence, after all, Big Dipper quietly urged Yi Wanwan. Only 100 or so people from the Fearless Alliance were there. If the Nye family was truly enraged, they might not be able to flee. I'll shoulder the sky if it collapses, Yi Wanwan replied. Doesn't that just mean you're going to smash a hole in the sky, Sis Feng? Big Dipper murmured. President Bai, you're intent on antagonizing our Nye family. Patriarch Nye stood up, his gaze settling on Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan shook her head at Patriarch Nye. It isn't that I want to antagonize the Nye family. It's the direct opposite, in fact. I merely don't want the Nye family to be deceived and beclouded by some people. Heh. Patriarch Nye snorted. President Bai, you came here today and arrogantly provoked the Nye family in such a manner and said such words. It's truly rather incomprehensible. It's fine that it's incomprehensible right now, Yi Wanwan responded. Shit. Nameless Nye didn't wait for Patriarch Nye to say anything else and quickly darted toward Yi Wanwan. Say, sister, what the heck are you doing? This doesn't match our plan at all. If you're crashing this ceremony like this, I won't be able to save you later. Yi Wanwan shot him a look. That's all you've got? Your nephew was hit, yet you stand by and do nothing? Nameless Nye was startled. The one who hit him was his actual mom, so what could I have done? I know you have a good relationship with Tang Tang, but isn't this too impulsive? Actual mom your ass. I'm Tong Tong's actual mom. Huh. Nameless Nye was stupefied. What do you mean? Everyone turned to Yi Wanwan. She was little young Master Nye's real mom? Utter nonsense. Patriarch Nye's face brimmed with displeasure. Say, sister, what's wrong with you? What actual mom? Explain clearly. Don't tell me Tang Tang isn't a member of the Nye family and is actually your son? Nameless Nye urgently pressed. Yi Wanwan, everyone, you've seen it for yourself, right? This is how the Fearless Alliance acts, Worryless Nye interjected. Are you kidding me? You're just an imposter. Do you seriously think you're Worryless Nye? Yi Wanwan questioned. I'm an imposter? Worryless Nye sneered. President Bai, although I don't know what madness has overtaken you, don't even think about leaving the Nye residence alive today. Wanwan, is there someone deliberately instructing you to do this? Madame Nye asked her with a frown as she stood up. Patriarch, madam, I can attest that she's the genuine Miss Worryless. As for this one, she is indeed an imposter. Feng Shuani walked out of the crowd, a smile on his face. Shuani? Nameless Nye turned to Feng Shuani. What in the world is going on? Hurry and explain. Captain, no need to hurry. Allow me to slowly explain this whole story, Feng Shuani replied. Slow your ass. Make the long story short. Nameless Nye shouted urgently. What right do you have to testify for someone else? Don't tell me you've been bribed by the Fearless Alliance. Worryless Nye asked harshly, looking at Feng Shuani. Heh, whether I was bribed or not, facts speak louder than words. The truth can only come to light if there's proof, am I right? Feng Shuani said in good spirits. Tangting, I'm your true mommy. Yi Wanwan softly asked him, do you trust mommy? Tang Tang looked at her and didn't hesitate at all before giving a firm nod and shrugging off Worryless Nye's hold. He sprinted toward Yi Wanwan. Mommy, Tang Tang called, looking up at Yi Wanwan. Good child. Tang Tang, this imposter pretended to be mommy and bullied you, so mommy will definitely get justice for you. If mommy can't do it, then I'll have your daddy come here to get justice for you. Yi Wanwan immediately knelt down and kissed Tang Tang on the cheek. Mommy? Daddy? Surprise flashed in Tong Tong's eyes. Damn, I'm not dreaming, right? What in the world happened? Boss Famous is saying she's Miss Worryless? Taoist devotee was stupefied. Not just that, but even Feng Shuani attested to Boss Famous' identity. I might doubt other people, but there's no reason for me to doubt Feng Shuani's words, right? Brick-moving foreigner wore an identical expression to Taoist devotee. What proof do you have? Nye Linglong aloofly asked. I am proof. Spray of flowers stepped out of the crowd. You, Nye Linglong narrowed her eyes at him. Imposter, I've killed all of those confidants you left at the prison. You didn't expect it, right? You freaking a bastard imposter like you has the guts to trick me? Spray of flowers loudly cursed while pointing at Worryless Nye. What a joke. I have no idea what you're saying. Oh, I get it. You must have been bribed by the Fearless Alliance. But that's fine. Since you're saying I'm an imposter, then show us your evidence. The fake Worryless Nye retorted frigidly. No need for the rush. Feng Shuani turned to brick-moving foreigner and instructed, Little sweetie, go and turn on the projector. Brick-moving foreigner nodded and the projector started several minutes later. Feng Shuani quickly went up and inserted an SD card into the projector. A second later, a video started playing on the projector screen. Inside a prison, worryless Nye looked at Yi Wanwan and snorted. So you know everything, but so what? Indeed, I impersonated your identity, but those two old farts from the Nye family are blind and muddle-headed and are set on the fact that I'm worryless Nye. There's nothing I can do. From now on, the Nye family will be mine, your son will be mine, everything of yours will be mine. And you have to be tortured to death here today. As the guests of the ceremony watched this video, they all became flabbergasted. Even the members of the Fearless Alliance were utterly stupefied. What was this? Their president Fearless was actually a daughter of the Nye family. Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye incredulously stared at the projector screen. Mommy, you're my mommy. Tang Tang was emotional as he looked at Yi Wanwan and fiercely hugged Yi Wanwan's legs, unwilling to let go. Anwen looked down at Tang Tang and said indulgently, aside from me, who else could be my darling Tang Tang's mommy, right? Tang Tang resolutely nodded. Everything mommy said was right. Damn, am I dreaming? Nameless Nye looked at the projector screen then turned to examine Yi Wanwan. I can't accept this. You're actually my real younger sister. This world is too insane. Nye Linglong ferociously glared at worryless Nye. This idiot actually abducted Yi Wanwan without asking her and even got recorded by Yi Wanwan. What was more infuriating was that this idiot didn't mention this matter to her at all. If Nye Linglong knew, how would things have played out like this? You're actually a fake. Madame Nye's icy gaze landed on worryless Nye. A tinge of panic finally surfaced on worryless Nye's face. Impossible. The prison has metal detector equipment inside. There's no way you could have possessed recording and surveillance devices. Worryless Nye turned to Yi Wanwan. Indeed. But it wasn't me who recorded this. Yi Wanwan snorted. It was me. Spray of Flowers looked at worryless Nye and nonchalantly said, I turned off the devices when I entered the prison, so these devices naturally went undetected. After I left the detectable area, I turned them back on. What did you think happened, you idiot? Yi Wanwan glanced at Spray of Flowers. Other people calling worryless Nye an idiot was excusable. Spray of Flowers, though, what right did he have to call someone an idiot? It wasn't that worryless Nye was stupid. She was merely too blindly arrogant and Feng Shuani was too clever. Anti-surveillance and recording devices were installed in the prison, so worryless Nye felt very emboldened and secured. What she never imagined was Spray of Flowers defecting. This was her biggest and most fatal failure. The panicked, worryless Nye immediately turned to Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye. You imposter, you've deceived us for so long, yet you still have the nerve to call me your father? Patriarch Nye shouted coldly. You freaking dare to hit my nephew? I can forgive you for that, but you used so much money from our Nye family during this time. You're dead. Nameless Nye yelled and promptly punched worryless Nye in the face. A loud bang resounded and worryless Nye flew back horizontally like a snipped kite before heavily crashing onto the floor. After worryless Nye landed, her body spasmed for a moment before losing all movement. She didn't die, right? Yi Wanwan frowned, reflexively covering Tang Tang's eyes. She soon walked toward the imposter and inspected her, only to discover that freaking nameless Nye seriously killed her with a punch. She stopped breathing? From that alone? How could someone like that possibly be my sister worryless? Blah. Nameless Nye said. Yi Wanwan, this dimwit. Nye Linglong couldn't help but smile. This nameless Nye was truly stupid, but he did help her. If this imposter didn't die, Nye Linglong was afraid her own identity would also be uncovered. Now though, dead men told no tales. Everyone involuntarily gasped when the imposter was killed by nameless Nye. This was such a plot twist. Damn, Sis Feng, you're a member of the Nye family? You're actually worryless Nye? My brain wasn't prepared for this. Wait, No, my brain is about to explode. Big Dipper stared at Yi Wanwan, stunned. The subordinates that Yi Wanwan brought from the Fearless Alliance were all dumbstruck. Their president was actually the princess of the Nye family, the leader of the 4 great clans. Wasn't this leap in identities a little too great? No one expected the Nye family's succession ceremony today to devolve into this. That worryless Nye was actually an imposter. Everyone's eyes landed on Yi Wanwan. No way, right? The president of the Fearless Alliance is actually worryless Nye? How's that possible? Indeed. The Fearless Alliance's notorious reputation has spread far and wide in the independent state for so many years, so how can President Fearless by phone be Miss Worryless from the Nye family? A higher-up from another faction turned to Madame Nye and Patriarch and cupped his fists as he said, "Patriarch, Madame Nye? Could this be a deception?" Madame Nye glanced at the speaker and aloofly replied, "We'll naturally determine whether or not this is deception ourselves. None of your input is necessary." Fine. Since Madame Nye said that, he'd be acting out of line if he continued vocalizing his doubts. It wasn't a joking matter to offend both the Nye family and the Fearless Alliance at the same time. First Elder pensively studied Yi Wanwan. He finally understood why the president kept making him conduct DNA tests earlier. Those DNA samples probably came from the Nye family. Damn, Sis Feng, you're actually worryless Nye? The second miss of the Nye family, the demon instructor from Scarlet Flames Academy. Big Dipper stared at Yi Wanwan in shock. This world was too crazy, right? You're my real sister? Nameless Nye was dazedly looking at Yi Wanwan. My foster sister became my real sister? Yi Wanwan, Mommy. Tang Tang intently stared at Yi Wanwan, his warm hand unwilling to loosen its grasp on Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan quickly picked up Tang Tang into her arms. Patriarch, Madam, how about we cancel today's succession ceremony for now and discuss this at home? Feng Shuani suggested quietly. Patriarch Nye and Madame Nye were a bit lost in their stares of Yi Wanwan. It wasn't until Feng Shuani repeated himself that they regained their composure and announced the cancellation of the succession ceremony today. After everyone left, Madame Nye's first reaction was to look at Nye Linglong. Before Madame Nye could speak, Nye Linglong took the initiative and guiltily said, "I didn't expect. I was also deceived by that imposter. Mom, Sister Worryless, it's all my fault." Yi Wanwan apathetically glanced at Nye Linglong. What decent acting. I was almost fooled by that guilty and grievous expression myself. However, now wasn't the time to target Nye Linglong. They also didn't have any proof. Nye Linglong might have found an imposter, but her single line, "I was also deceived," shut everyone's mouths. No wonder this woman could conceal herself inside the Nye family for so long, as she expected. Although Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye didn't look too happy, they didn't say anything more. Currently, their attention was wholly focused on Yi Wanwan. "Child, you really are worryless." Madame Nye was trembling lightly as she clutched Yi Wanwan's hand. Feng Shuani stepped forward at this moment and started to explain, "Madam, Patriarch, I apologize deeply for not informing you of the truth in advance. By that time, the fake miss had obtained your trust with Nye Linglong's help already, and the Nye family obviously had an insider or else her DNA test wouldn't have come back positive. Hence, in order to divulge the truth to Madam and Sir, Miss Worryless and I designed this plan and made her reveal her plan herself and publicize the recording to expose that imposter's true face," Feng Shuani continued. When Patriarch Nye heard this, his expression turned grim. Who could have pulled off this trick under the Nye family's noses? Nye Linglong's eyes turned in thought. "Dad, Mom, it's my fault for not being cautious enough and allowed someone to exploit our loophole. I'll definitely thoroughly look into this matter. I'll investigate this matter myself," Patriarch Nye said. Right now, he didn't trust anyone, so he had to investigate it himself. "Shuani, how did you find Worryless?" Madame Nye asked. "Madam, I found Miss Worryless back in China. At that time, she had drifted to China's imperial city and seemed to have lost her memories, so I never acknowledged her. I had to investigate for a long time before I could confirm Miss Worryless' identity. Spray of Flowers guilty said, "Back then, I wholeheartedly thought the woman at home was the real Miss Worryless, so I told that impostor how Feng Shuani seemed to have found Miss Worryless. That impostor deceived me and said the real Miss Worryless was an impostor from the direct line and sent people to assassinate Miss Worryless many times." Spray of Flowers then proceeded to spill everything else. Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye were shaken to the core by the tale, and Madame Nye grasped Yi Wanwan's hand, her eyes red and her expression brimming with heartache. No wonder she felt particularly intimate to Yi Wanwan the first time they met and wanted to get close to her. Madame Nye never imagined she would have mistakenly led a ravenous wolf inside her home and nearly harmed her real daughter. Madame Nye embraced Yi Wanwan with a sob. "Worryless, I've done you wrong. I've caused you to suffer." Yi Wanwan was a bit unaccustomed to Madame Nye's proximity. "You don't need to blame yourself. Those people were too cunning." Nye Linglong watched this family tearfully reuniting while she stood on the side by herself, as though she was an outsider. A chilliness flickered through her originally calm and placid gaze, and her fingernails dug into her palms. "I knew it. I knew that as soon as the real Worryless Nye returned, this Nye family probably wouldn't have a spot for me anymore." The position of the Nye family's second miss and even the position of the Nye family's head was almost hers. But then, this bitch actually returned at the last minute. Feng Shuani, the person sent by the Ling family. She actually forgot about this person. "Child, how have you been these past years? Just what happened? Why did you lose your memories? No wonder you didn't come home for so many years." Madame Nye launched question after question. Yi Wanwan concealed the fact that Si Yihan masked her memory. "I don't know either. Perhaps I hit my head in an accident. It's only recently that I started recovering a fraction of my memories, but there are still many things I don't remember." Madame Nye glared at Nameless Nye and said, "That unreliable brother of yours. I don't know whether I should say he's dumb or he's lucky. He casually found someone to impersonate Tong Tong's mom and actually found you." Patriarch Nye snorted. He didn't realize the long-missing sister he had been searching for so many years was by his side. "Does his brain look fine to you?" Yi Wanwan, "An official roast is the deadliest." Nameless Nye grumbled, "What right do you have to talk about me, Dad? Didn't you also fail to recognize her?" Patriarch Nye was nearly infuriated to death. Nameless Nye quickly dodged before he was hit. Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye were overwhelmed with guilt. They couldn't recognize their real daughter and nearly caused her to be harmed by an impostor. They truly didn't deserve to be parents, allowing her to undergo so much suffering. "Sister Worryless, thank goodness you're back. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to remedy my wrongs even if I died." Nye Linglong kept apologizing, but her words suddenly took a sharp turn. "However, I didn't expect you to be the president of the Fearless Alliance, Sister Worryless. No wonder we couldn't find you no matter what." Yi Wanwan coolly glanced at Nye Linglong. This woman's words might appear fine, but she was obviously using underhanded tactics by purposefully bringing up her identity as the president of the Fearless Alliance. Nye Linglong wanted to drive a wedge between her and her parents. "Dad, Mom, will me being the president of the Fearless Alliance affect the Nye family?" Yi Wanwan asked hesitantly. Patriarch Nye promptly responded, "What effect could it have? The daughter of me, Nye Huili, can do whatever she wants. Who would dare to criticize you?" Yi Wanwan, her dad uttered Nye Huili rather smoothly. If it weren't for the fact that Feng Shuani informed her that his father had married into the Nye family and changed his surname from Ling to Nye, she wouldn't be able to tell. However, from this, it could be seen that father truly loved mother very much. Madame Nye also agreed. "Dad and Mom already told you that you'd be fine to do whatever you wanted. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want, whoever you like. It's all good as long as you're happy. You don't need to worry about the world's judgments. Now that you're back, Dad and Mom are here regardless of what happens." Yi Wanwan, based on how strictly they treated Nameless Nye normally, she thought she'd get scolded, but when Nye Linglong saw that her parents didn't care at all, Her lips were a little stiff and she took a moment to regain her faint smile. Dad and Mom are right. Nameless Nya was flabbergasted. Dad, that's not what you said to me. Isn't this preferential treatment too much? Honestly tell me, I'm actually adopted, right? Damn punk, do you want to die? What followed was Madame Nya and Patriarch Nya drowning Yi Wanwan in pampering and inquiries about her well-being. Yi Wanwan only reported the good and avoided the bad, briefly telling them about her life in China these past years. At that moment, baby Tang Tang looked at Grandma to the left of Mommy and Grandpa to the right of Mommy and Uncle to the front of Mommy. He finally couldn't endure it anymore and called out, "Mommy? Can't they return Mommy to me?" Only then did Yi Wanwan realize she forgot about her darling Tang Tang. She quickly picked up the little fella and said, "What a good baby. Come here and let Mommy hug you." Baby Tang Tang grievously shoved Nameless Nya aside and sprang into his mom's arms. Madame Nya's face was full of loving kindness and comfort as she looked at her daughter and grandson. No wonder Tang Tang likes you so much and feels so close to you. You're related by blood, after all, Patriarch Nya sighed. It's a pity that Xiuran went missing. Otherwise, your family of 3 could reunite. When Yi Wanwan, who is happily hugging Tang Tang, heard that, she was startled. "Huh." Patriarch Nya hastily comforted her. "Worryless, don't worry. I'll definitely find Xiuran and absolutely won't allow Tang Tang to go without a father." PFT. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Wanwan was nearly choked by her own spit. "No. You've misunderstood." Patriarch Nya and Madame Nya looked at each other, baffled. "Misunderstood? What do you mean?" Yi Wanwan patted Tong Tong's head and exasperatedly asked, "Dad, Mom, who told you Tong Tong's father is Emperor Ji?" Madame Nya retorted, "It's not." Yi Wanwan cleared her throat. "It really isn't." Madame Nya and Patriarch Nya were stunned. They both knew how much their daughter liked Ji Xiuran back then. Moreover, Ji Xiuran had always treated Tang Tang very kindly, and they shared a close relationship. Hence, Ji Xiuran never said anything, but they tacitly agreed that Tang Tang had to be the son of their daughter and Ji Xiuran. Who would have expected that to be false? Damn, Tong Tong's dad isn't Ji Xiuran? Nameless Nya was also astonished. Then who's Tong Tong's father? Yi Wanwan wondered how her parents and Nameless Nya would react if she told them it was Lord Azura. Forget it, I should give them a breather. Yi Wanwan glanced at darling Tong Tong's nearly identical features to a certain someone before saying, "Either way, it's not Ji Xiuran. Don't misunderstand. When there's time, I'll bring Tong Tong's dad here to meet you." Madame Nya deliberated her next words for a moment. She grasped Yi Wanwan's hand and heavily said, "Worryless, although you can't be with Xiuran, you absolutely can't abandon yourself and get with a random man, all right?" "That's right. Don't tell me the daughter of me, Nya Huaili, would need to fret about finding a good man. That punk from the Ji family is blind for not liking you." Yi Wanwan didn't know whether to cry or laugh. "Dad, Mom, don't worry. How could I have possibly found a random man? You just need to look at Tong Tong's perfect genetics to know his dad is very outstanding and especially handsome. More importantly, we're mutually and genuinely in love, so don't worry." Her parents finally relaxed after hearing that. However, Yi Wanwan's heart suddenly raised. "Shit, now that everyone knows I'm Worryless Nya, Siyihan must also know. He knows I'm Worryless Nya. He knows Worryless Nya has an engagement with Ji Xiuran. He knows I have a son, an out-of-wedlock son with Ji Xiuran." At the same time, at a hot springs resort in the independent state, Siyihan, Jiang Lihan, Xie Qianchuan were discussing business while sitting at a stone table under a tree when the sound of urgent footsteps was heard. Lin Ke dashed towards Siyihan, gasping for air. "Ninth brother. Something happened. Something serious happened." Siyihan frowned lightly. "What is it?" Jiang Lihan and Xie Qianchuan also reflexively turned to Lin Quebec. Jiang Lihan disdainfully looked at Lin Ke's face, which turned average-looking after his disguise, and asked, "Tisk tsk, say, second Lin, when can you fix your ruckus-causing personality?" Something heaven collapsing really happened this time, alright? Lin Ke ignored Jiang Lihan and caught his breath before swiftly continuing. Ninth brother, everyone in the independent state is saying that the president of the Fearless Alliance, Bai Feng, is the true second miss of the Nye family, Worryless Nye. That girl crashed the Nye family's family head succession ceremony today and supposedly broadcast a telling video that proved the Worryless Nye in the Nye family right now is a fake and she's the real one. The fake one was killed on the spot by Nameless Nye. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.